Hello there, fellow builders and planners. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Medieval Dynasty. Episode 5, a spring full of spirited progress. I must say, it's already looking a bit idyllic. I like the look. Simple. And I still don't pay any taxes because we don't have enough infrastructure to warrant it, but that will soon change as we're building up the infrastructure to allow for another villager. Now, if you'd like, what I think I'm going to do is cut this maple tree down, but then, actually, this maple tree is going to block a crafting building, so I'm going to cut and de-stump this one, and then I'll cut one of these down and leave the stump so that we can track how quickly the stump regrows, because I know you guys were questioning about that. It does regrow, it just takes a long time. And there goes my axe. Oh, don't land on me. That came down faster than I thought it would. If you're wondering, like, you'd probably survive, but you would not be in good condition if a tree fell on you. Unless it only grazed you. Much like the Elder Scrolls games, like, if you're hurt in this game, going in your inventory pauses the game. As you can see, like, if I jump and open my inventory, time is frozen. So if you are hurting, you can always just, like, consume a bunch of healing items or eat broadleaf plantains or however you want to heal, like, in a hurry if you're injured. But if a tree's landing on your head and it's going to be fatal, there's no amount of food that's going to help you avoid a impending fatal injury. Hey JJ, thank you for the resub. I'm glad you're enjoying some of my older content. Always a pleasure to have people tune in into a stream. So after I get the barn, and I already have the well, the last thing we would need, or the last two buildings we would need to support a farmer, is going to be an actual house for them to live in, and then a farm stand for them to work in. So we are the remainder of this barn and two buildings away. The farm stand is a really small building to build. It's really not significant. It's not a big investment. But the house will be exactly as expensive as the one we already built, because we only have access to the small, simple houses. Now, fortunately, once we get, like, woodcutters and extractors and the other craftspeople, they'll start to be the ones that collect the logs, the stones. Well, I don't really need them collecting stones because we're going to have so many byproduct stones as a result of mining. But they're going to be the ones that collect a lot of the resources, meaning it's not really going to be our responsibility to have to do that stuff, which is going to make our lives a lot easier. Can houses share a wall? No. Every building is standalone. But once I have the basic infrastructure, I could also invest some time into making aesthetic improvements. One of the things your villagers really like to have, and they complain a lot if they don't, is seating. Now, in my technology games, the only seating I can probably offer them is like a tree stump to sit on, and maybe like a little campfire for them to sit around, but like, that's certainly better than nothing. So that could be an improvement that we work towards as well. Is maple syrup a thing in the game? No. I don't believe so. Okay, we need really not too much more stuff in order to build this barn. Thatch and some logs. Also, as I'm wading through the water, I'm losing filth. It's worth noting, water has to be a certain depth in order to really clean you. So this water is only like waist deep, so I didn't remove all the filth. So I'm still a little filthy. But if I go into the deeper end, I'll probably remove all of the filth. Being able to clean up. I might actually need a wash basin. This water might not be deep enough to bathe in. Which is funny, because you'd think standing under a waterfall it would be. But yeah, it seems like if I ever want to truly clean up, this is too shallow, so I'll need a wash basin. Which is fine. Once I have a woodcut hut, I'll be able to make planks and have access to that. Alright, well, punching trees isn't gonna work. For me to do this, I need 2 stones. Ooh, extraction leveled up again. Let's take a look. So I can get 2 points of extraction knowledge to level up faster. Yep, that would be the best choices. Do different tree sizes give different amount of resources? It's not about the tree size, it's the tree type. So maples give 4 plus a stump, which is 5. Birches give 2 plus a stump, which is 3, so on and so forth. So maples are the best, and like birch is the worst. I think spruce is 3, maples is 4, and birch is spruce is 4, maples are 5, and birch is 3. So that's the driving factor. With that said, maple trees aren't typically densely populated, so although they give you the most wood per tree, there generally isn't a ton of them, whereas like up there is a spruce forest, and the spruce forest is a lot more, you know, tree dense. The barn is almost done. And I think, as far as food goes, simple dried meats is probably going to be enough to keep my villagers happy initially. So my farming is mostly going to be profit-driven. And experience-driven. Experience meaning to be able to level up. But here we go. Here we have a barn. And in the barn, you can thresh grains here. So you can thresh wheat, oat, rye, and flax. You can grind grains. And this is the first time you might have seen this symbol where in order to make rye grain, for instance, I would need to buy the scheme. So what's really important here is you should never buy a scheme that you can't use. So like I might, for instance, be able to buy the scheme to make bronze tools, but if I can't source bronze, who cares? It's just going to be a really expensive waste of coin. And then over here, we have the workbench to be able to make fertilizer out of manure, fertilizer out of rot, poppy, animal feed, and daub for wall-to-wall insulation. So when planning for our farms, what I want is to be able to make fertilizer, and we already have the scheme for that, and also animal feed. Animal feed is going to be really important because I don't want to have to buy animal feed. It's heavy and expensive. I'd rather just grow it, which means I need straw, and you get straw from just threshing anything, oat and rye. So if we want oat and rye, those are two of the first crops I should add after flax. So if we take a look here, oat is a spring, so I'm not going to be able to get oat this season because there's not enough time left in the spring for me to sow an oat field. Rye, however, is a autumn crop. So if I got a farmer sometime in the summer, I would allow that farmer could then sow a rye field and harvest it in the spring. So at least on year one, if I want to do animal husbandry, I might need to buy some animal feed. But what I'd really like to do heading into year two is to be able to source the oat and the rye needed for animal feed locally, so I don't have to purchase it anymore. So when I'm planning out farms, that's probably the most important for me. And then also figure out like some sort of complex food, because your villagers are happier when they're eating nice meals. Eating dried meat all the time is terrible. It makes them sad. So in order to offer them good sustenance, building a kitchen and then figuring out some sort of recipe that you can use at that kitchen that will fulfill food needs that you can source yourself. I have another birch sapling. Let's do a birch tree here. And I had a different a maple sapling. I looted all this already. Yes. Okay. So we got the barn. The next thing is we need a house and a farming hut. I think what I'll do is the farming hut first. So farming shed. You want your farming sheds to be close to your farm fields. The further they are away from the farm fields, if they're like, I think 70 meters away from your farm fields, there's a penalty to work speed. Basically, instead of assigning farmers to farm fields, farmers are assigned to farm sheds, and they just farm everything that they can. So one farmer working at a shed can manage 2, 3, 4 fields. It depends on the seasons and the grows. So if I have like if I have one farm field for, so I'll give you a for instance. This flax field is a spring crop, so it's sown in the spring, harvested in the summer. If I have a flax field and a rye field is sown in the fall. So flax is here. Flax is sown in the spring, harvested in the summer. And if I have a rye field sown in the fall, harvested in the spring, during the winter, the farmer wouldn't have anything to do. So maybe I would pair that with carrots, winter carrots, which is sown in the winter and harvested in the summer. So that in the spring, the farmer has to sow one flax field, harvest one rye field. In the summer, they would do nothing. No, that's not true. They would harvest flax? Yeah, in the summer they would harvest flax. And potentially that's it. In the autumn they would sow rye. In the winter they would sow in the autumn they would sow rye and harvest like oats or whatever. Like, so my point is, rather than having like, make sure that you don't overload them with work, I guess is my greater point.
So you wouldn't, for instance, want to do flax, onion, and cabbage, because the flax, onion, and cabbage is all the same sowing and harvesting seasons, so that one farmer would be overworked and they would just not get to everything, all the work needed. So planning out your fields so that there's synergy between your crops so that you don't overload your farmer all in one season is just really important. So I'm going to want to be probably doing flax, because flax is really important. Basically, you have to have flax or you're just not going to be able to support your village. Flax, oats, and rye. So oats and rye are for the animal feed, flax is for our clothing. And then probably carrots, because it's the only thing that we can sow in the winter, which keeps your farmer doing something in the winter. And then finding some recipe that uses carrots to be able to feed our villagers. So back to my original point, if we want farming, setting up a farming shed close to where the farming fields are, I think what I'll do is I'll put the farming shed like, so our farm fields are here. Let's lay out another farm field, but I'm not going to do anything to it. So, building, farming, field. I think what I'll do is create a road. I wish there was better light right now, but create a road from here. So this is where our road left off. I'm going to continue our like river path road up the river a bit. And maybe terminate it at this little camp. And this is like almost a purely aesthetic road. Oh, there goes my torch. And then for aesthetic reasons, I'm going to want a road that cuts around this field. I don't want to get too close to the field because it will like clip into it in a weird way. There we go. So now we have a road along this field. And then this road can eventually lead back to the food barn. Like this. There we go. And if I ever want to adjust it, it's really easy to destroy a road. You just look at the road, gravel road, boom. We can get rid of it this way. So if you don't like it, it's pretty easy to get rid of. Gravel roads don't cost resources. Things that cost resources, you get half of what you invested in back. So you shouldn't build things and destroy them willy-nilly because it's going to be expensive. But there we go. Now we have a little road system around this farm field. And eventually we could even put like fences or gates around it, have it look enclosed, put benches along the sides. We could adorn it with things. If we wanted to, I could even have this road be a little bit more flush with the field like that. So it looks more pinned in and destroy the original road and, you know, rework things a bit. There's a lot of aesthetic things that you can do with your village to make it look nice. So I'll fix up this road a bit. Make it look more flush. Obviously, this would be easier to do in the day. There. So just want to demonstrate that it's pretty easy to make corrections. Okay. So we got this field. Now what I wanted to do is I wanted to lay out the other two fields, the rye and the oat field, and possibly a carrot field as well. But I'm not going to manage it myself. That's going to be for the farmer to do. So I mentioned this before, but farm fields can only be north-south oriented. So they're on like a predetermined grid system. I think that's probably a game engine mechanic constraint. But here's another 49 size field. And then Let's put the gravel road up this way. And do another 49er right next to this one rather than have a path. Oh, this is orchard. Oops, misclick. Glad I caught that. If you ever do the wrong field, it's pretty easy to correct. And you just delete it, just like you do everything else. Okay, 2 new fields. So oats, rye, and then maybe 1 more for carrots. Cool. I don't need to grub up these fields or fertilize them. That's, again, going to be for the farmer to do once I hire a farmer. That's the whole point of having a villager. So then we'll have the road come out and then come back. And closing the farm fields entirely. There we go. And they will look nice when they're sown, finally. There's a little bit of road correction to do here. It's like a gap in the gravel. Alright. Now, I mentioned before that you want your farming huts, and the reason I laid out these fields is I wanted to figure out exactly where the farming hut should go. So I'm going to put a farm shed here, which is like roughly equidistant between all the fields. So if we find this is field 2, field 3, so between field 2 and field 3, which is right here, if I put a farming shed here, it's like roughly equidistant between all the fields. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be close enough. But this is where our farming shed's going to go. Now, with that said, I'm also going to build a stone house for the farmer to live in. I'd like for people to live roughly where they work. So I'm going to build a farmhouse here. There we go. So these are the last 2 structures that we're going to need. Interestingly, I'm just on the edge of the resource building, so I might need to go physically fetch the stones, but it's not that big of a deal. There. I'm right at the edge. Alright, so we're out of stone, but I could go mine some more up. I'm also going to need to eat and drink. The roasted meat, or the dried meat, has a bit of like food poisoning risk, but as long as my food poisoning doesn't climb up to 100, right now it's 10.5, it's fine. Basically, the meat is just, it's not a very high quality thing to eat, so it comes with a poison risk. Alright. So we just need some more stone from the mine in order to continue building. With that said, it's about to be change of season in like any second now, because it's nearly midnight in game. And when change of season happens, yeah, there's no point in me going to the mine. When change of season happens, I will wake up in my house. So there's really no point in wandering away, because any moment now I'm just gonna be teleported to my home. So I'm just collecting some sticks and from around my hut to waste time for season change. I could, however, yeah, here we go. Season change. I was gonna say I could just like go to sleep and skip 3 seconds, but it's not a big deal. All right, so now that the season has changed, the temperature is going to be higher, and it's going to be harder for me to cool down. So I'm going to have like a heat exhaustion mechanic, and you can wear clothing to be able to counter some of this. So I could try to, with a crafting hut, make myself like a straw hat, things like that, or stay inside in insulated buildings. And then the meat I dropped here turned into 96 rot. So if I go over to the workbench here, I can turn that 96 rot into 9 fertilizer. So one of the advantages of leaving food out to rot is you can, if you have extra berries or extra meat that you don't care for, you can intentionally rot it and compost it. There's also a composting bin that you unlock later on to make this a little bit more straightforward and easy. Oh, wait, why do I have a bag on me? Put that away. All right, let's get back into the mines and continue building the farmer's hut and the farming shed. Another thing to note is my food and water completely filled up between seasons. So if you want, you can, I mean, food and water is pretty easy to come by, but if you want, you could min-max it and like not eat until just before, you know, to make sure that your end of season change like feeds you for free. And this is another example of all of the nodes have refilled. So I had mined previously out all this copper, and it's back. I can barely move. So once we have the farmer, we're going to need to supply the farmer with some basic tools. But also the flax field that we have here is technically harvestable, and we would need a sickle and a scythe. So although I was planning on having the farmer manage the other fields, I wouldn't mind the farmer collecting what we already have. So getting the farmer before end of season so that it can, so that he or she can harvest our flax would be great. It would really cut a lot of the manual labor out for myself. Ooh, you know what? Well, actually, the house is close enough to the research storage that I can put the stones away. Okay, we need some logs. Maybe some of the riverside birch. One thing that would be nice is I do have access to the Echoes of Nature DLC, which allows us to put in seasonal plants, evergreens, and rose shrubs, and interesting rocks and rock ponds and the like. So replacing a lot of the default trees with the Echoes of Nature stuff would be great, meaning that if I clear cut all the trees near the river, leaving maybe some of the maples for aesthetics, and replacing them with some of the more beautiful trees that the Echoes of Nature offers up, that's a good medium-term goal. The other thing that we're probably going to need to be able to support a farmer, if you're wondering, is a smithy. Or sewing hut, or possibly both, because they're going to go through tools pretty quickly. And if we don't have copper tools to replace what they use up, they will cease to work. Because if you see in the quick craft here, there is a stone sickle and a stone hoe, but as you can imagine, those things get broken like in a blink of an eye. So unless, I mean, we could always batch craft them, but I would prefer to offer our farmer, you know, copper tools if possible. So, one other game mechanic, the things that you can forage for is seasonal.
I'm rousting out of here.
So, every season there will be a different subset of wild herbs and mushrooms. So mushrooms, in the spring there are morel mushrooms. In the fall there's a lot of different types of wild mushrooms that we could forage for. I don't really enjoy basing my food economy based upon foraged stuff because it's kind of hard to source it, and it's also very seasonal, and it's hard to supply a lot of it.
I'm rousting out of here.
Farmers are able to like source a ton of crop from a farm field, but you know, foraging is much slower. Same with extraction. So, for instance, a woodcutter might be able to supply me like, I don't know, 10, 15 logs a day, something around those. Whereas like 10 or 15 logs I can get in a fraction of the time. Whereas a farmer is going to be able to, you know, grind out a ton of crop that would be utterly boring for me to do myself. And yeah, my character is going to be complaining about heat a lot. I'm right at the edge of the resource storage. So probably not going to... Yeah. Can I do it from here? Oh, there we go. So to finish this, we need 2 logs. I also need 2 stones for a replacement axe, because this axe is going to break any second now. The heat that I'm being subjected to here is just going to increase, like, my thirst. But I'm living next to a river, so it's really not a concern. Easy enough to hydrate.
What a scorcher.
And if you want your character to, like, shut up about the heat tolerance, if you take a look at your inventory, I'm just beyond my heat tolerance here. The green is, like, the Goldilocks heat tolerance. So getting, like, a straw hat or something would help me stay a little bit cooler. Which I would need to build a sewing hut for, which is going to take me a minute. Or, alternatively, I could just buy a straw hat in town. Generally speaking, purchasing tools or clothing is a lot more expensive than producing it yourself. So, like, if you can easily produce it yourself, you probably should, is I guess what I'm trying to say. All right, crops management. I don't really need to go through this right now, but the management screen is here if I want to manage my crops. And eventually, these other 3 fields I will manage once I have a, you know, a farmer. I also just unlocked the next level of house. I kind of want to skip the next level of house and go straight for the best houses. So I'm going to do all simple houses until I get the best houses. That's my game plan. I could also edit this building. We'll put a wall here and just like a single window out the front. All right, from here on out, I need more stone, and it's definitely in my advantage to get it from the mines, Because as soon as I can make use of that copper, I'm going to have so much copper ore to turn into copper tools to be able to bring to market to sell. It's going to be quite a windfall. Does taking off my clothing still work? So my clothing, if you're wondering, provides me heat protection. So it's actually protecting me from the heat, not doing the inverse. Winter clothing, like furs, would do the inverse. So when you make winter clothing, it protects you from the cold, but it will heat you up in the summer. Oh man, I could carry so few stones in one go. I could be dropping, when I'm mining, I could be dropping my like shovel and axe and things like that to lower my weight. So there's ways to do this a little bit smarter. I'm gonna hide that marathon timer. It hasn't been working yet again. So rude. Like how it worked for like a moment and then just stopped. Oop, that's not needed. All right, looking around, a lot more stone is needed and logs, and then the roof here is going to be thatched because I don't have access to planks. So we'll need more straw too. So wood, straw, and logs. Or logs, straw, and stone, I should say.
Dang.
You also notice that in my insulated house, my heat meter drops. So I'm more comfortable in my house because the stone, the stone walls and the thatch roof help to insulate me from the heat. So I have less of a discomfort at home. And I'm just dropping stuff off I don't necessarily need on me to increase my carry weight. So I'll keep the torch, keep the hammer, keep the pick, drop everything else off. We got oh, and this hammer is like a moment away from breaking. I got, what, a birch? Birch tree and birch tree. Any other saplings? No. Thank you for tuning in to Medieval Dynasty, which originally streamed live on Twitch as a marathon. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind I've asked for no spoilers, so don't spoil it for anyone else in the comments. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Medieval Dynasty players.